The sound of sniper fire echoed through the radio in the CIA safe house in Eastern Europe. Target down. Viper 1 eliminated. The cold, familiar voice made Olivia Mitchell's blood freeze as she stood in the corner of the room, holding a mission briefing report while watching the elite CIA team analyze intelligence about 3 missing operatives. Commander Jack Morrison, broad shoulders filling his black suit, turned to look at her with skeptical eyes. Security consultant. His voice emphasized each word like a mockery. Your file shows only 12 months of contract work. You think you know something about Phoenix Operation that we don't? Captain Sarah Hayes, blonde hair pulled back in a neat bun, looked from Olivia to the computer screen. Ghost Viper has been dead for 5 years. Classified files confirm it. You're wasting our time. Olivia set the report down on the table, her voice soft, but cutting through the tense air like a blade. He's not dead, and in 20 minutes, he'll know exactly where we are. Morrison's eyes narrowed. You talk like you know his tactics. I do. Olivia looked straight into his eyes. Because he taught me. If this betrayal from a mentor makes your blood boil, don't miss what happens next. Hit that like button right now to support the strong women who hide their true power. Subscribe to the channel and hit the thanks button below. Your support helps me continue telling stories about quiet heroes walking among us. Because sometimes the most dangerous person is the one who looks the weakest. The tension in the room shifted like a storm cloud moving overhead. Derek Chen, the intel specialist with razor-sharp features and suspicious eyes, leaned forward from his position at the surveillance station. Security consultant with combat knowledge? That's suspicious as heck. Marcus Webb, built like a linebacker with arms that could crush steel, crossed his massive frame and scoffed. Lady's been watching too many action movies. This is real intel work, not Hollywood fantasy. Patricia Walsh, the operations coordinator with her silver hair pulled into a severe bun, adjusted her wire-rimmed glasses and spoke with the authority of someone used to being obeyed. CIA doesn't need amateur hour. We have protocols for a reason. The safe house itself told stories of decades of covert operations. Built in the 1980s during Soviet occupation, the building had been repurposed with modern surveillance equipment, encrypted communication systems, and multiple screens showing the last known positions of the missing operatives. 15 military and intelligence personnel filled the space, their conversations creating a background hum of professional urgency. Olivia stood quietly, her posture straight but not aggressive, watching the room with eyes that seemed to catalog every exit, every weapon, every potential threat. Her civilian clothes, dark jeans and a plain gray sweater, made her appear even more out of place among the tactical gear and formal attire of the professional operators. Morrison walked to the main screen, pointing at satellite imagery of a mountainous region. Our 3 operatives went dark 72 hours ago during a reconnaissance mission. Last transmission indicated they were investigating reports of Ghost Viper sightings. Obviously, someone's playing games with old legends. Ghost Viper was confirmed KIA in the Phoenix Operation collapse, Hayes added, her military bearing evident in every movement. Entire unit was declared dead after the incident. The psychological profile suggested he couldn't have survived the injuries sustained. Derek pulled up classified files on his computer, the security clearance warnings flashing across the screen. No credible sightings in 5 years, no communication intercepts, no financial activity. The man is dead, period. Olivia shifted slightly, her hands remaining at her sides, but her weight distribution changed in a way that suggested combat readiness. Extraction from that valley requires night vision approach, not aerial reconnaissance. Standard protocols won't work against someone who wrote the book on unconventional warfare. The room went quiet. Marcus turned from his tactical display, his expression shifting from amusement to curiosity. How would a consultant know about valley extraction protocols? Lucky guess, Patricia said, but her voice carried less conviction than before. Olivia walked to the satellite imagery, her movements precise and economical. She folded the mission briefing papers with military precision, each crease exactly where it should be. Ghost Viper never used standard extraction routes. He'd create false trails in 3 directions, then use the 4th path nobody thought to check. Morrison watched her carefully. You seem to know a lot about Dead Man's tactics. Because they work. Olivia pointed to 3 different locations on the map. Your team went in here, through the main valley approach. Predictable. He would have known they were coming before they cleared the first ridge. Captain Hayes stepped closer, her skepticism evident. You're suggesting we redesign our entire rescue operation based on theories about a ghost. I'm suggesting you want your people back alive." Olivia's voice remained calm, but something in her tone made the room pay attention. "Current plan has them walking into the same trap that took your operatives." Derek's computer chimed with an incoming message. He read the screen, his face paling slightly. "New intelligence just came in. Satellite picked up movement in Sector 7, exactly where she said he'd be." The silence stretched taut as everyone processed this information. Marcus uncrossed his arms, his dismissive attitude wavering. "Could be coincidence." "Could be." Olivia pulled up additional satellite data with practiced efficiency, her fingers moving across the keyboard with the speed of someone intimately familiar with intelligence systems. "Or we could acknowledge that your current approach has already failed once." Morrison studied her carefully. His initial dismissiveness was being replaced by professional curiosity, though suspicion remained. "What would you suggest, consultant?" Olivia redesigned the rescue plan on the main screen, her modifications revealing tactical thinking that went far beyond civilian knowledge. She identified 3 major flaws in the original approach: predictable insertion points, inadequate fallback positions, and failure to account for psychological warfare tactics. "First insertion team creates false signature here," she explained, marking the map with precise coordinates. "Second team uses thermal masking to approach from the north. Third team, the real extraction unit, comes in low through this ravine that doesn't appear on standard topographical maps." Hayes studied the plan, her military training recognizing sophisticated tactical thinking. "How do you know about the ravine?" "Because Ghost Viper used it in Budapest, and Prague, and Damascus." Olivia's knowledge was specific, detailed, impossible to fake. "He has patterns, even when he thinks he doesn't." Derek ran the new plan through his computer simulations, the results appearing on his secondary screen. "This actually works. Success probability jumps from 37% to 82%. Patricia adjusted her glasses again, her skepticism beginning to crack. "Those are classified operation locations. How would a consultant know about missions that never officially happened?" Morrison's phone buzzed with a secure message. He read it quickly, his expression shifting to something approaching respect. "Background check acceleration just came back. Your security clearance is higher than mine, consultant, way higher." The room's atmosphere changed like pressure dropping before a storm. Marcus no longer looked amused. Hayes had straightened to attention without realizing it. Derek was running additional searches on his computer, his fingers moving frantically across the keyboard. "Budapest Protocol," Olivia said quietly, the words hitting the intelligence professionals like physical blows. "Prague extraction, Damascus infiltration, all Ghost Viper operations, all supposedly classified beyond existence." Derek's search results flashed on his screen. "Those operation names don't exist in any database I can access. How do you know them?" "Because I was there." The confession hung in the air like smoke from a battlefield. Morrison set down his phone, his full attention now focused on the woman who had walked into their safe house as a simple consultant and was systematically dismantling their assumptions about what was possible. Hayes pulled up the operational timeline on her tablet. "If you were involved in those missions, that would make you..." "Involved?" Olivia's response was deliberately vague, but her knowledge was anything but uncertain. "Current mission timeline needs compression to 6 hours. Ghost Viper knows your people are here. He's not keeping them alive for conversation." Marcus checked his tactical readouts. 6 hours? Our original plan called for 48-hour preparation. Your original plan assumed you were hunting someone who follows conventional rules. Olivia pulled up additional satellite feeds, showing movement patterns that the team had missed. "He doesn't. He's 3 moves ahead of everything you've planned." The tactical display showed heat signatures moving through terrain that should have been impassable. Patricia leaned closer to her screen, her operational experience recognizing patterns that suggested professional military movement. "Those signatures are too coordinated for random hostiles." "Because they're not random?" Olivia highlighted specific movement patterns. "Classic pincer formation, modified for mountain terrain. Your operatives are being moved, not held stationary." Derek's computer chimed again. "New intercept just came in. Partial communication fragment." He played the audio. "Phase 2 initiated. Package relocation in progress." Morrison stood up, his command presence filling the room. "Package relocation means they're moving our people. If we don't move now, we lose them completely." "Which is exactly what he wants you to think." Olivia's voice cut through the growing urgency. "Fear-based decision-making, classic psychological manipulation. He's drawing you into hasty action. Hayes checked her sidearm, her military instincts activated. So, what do you suggest? Let our people die while we analyze his psychology? I suggest we stop playing his game and start playing ours. Olivia looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes in turn. Solo reconnaissance. One person, minimal signature, gather actual intelligence instead of reacting to manipulation. The suggestion created an immediate response. Marcus stepped forward, his bulk intimidating. Absolutely not. We don't send civilians into hostile territory. Then send someone else. Olivia's calm response frustrated his attempt at intimidation. But understand that whoever you send is walking into terrain. Ghost Viper knows better than his own reflection. Patricia consulted her operational manual, bureaucratic procedure warring with tactical necessity. Unauthorized solo operations violate 17 different protocols. I can't approve this. Then don't approve it. Olivia was already moving toward the equipment lockers. But your protocols were written by people who never faced Ghost Viper. Derek's computer suddenly erupted with alerts. Multiple screens flashed red as incoming data streams triggered every security warning in the system. Something's happening. Massive data breach. Someone's accessing our networks. Morrison rushed to the main console. How is that possible? This is a secured facility. Because he taught your people how to build these security systems. Olivia's voice carried knowledge that made everyone in the room go cold. 20-year head start on understanding how intelligence operations work. The main screen flickered, then displayed a message in stark white letters against black background. Viper protocol activated. Phase 3 commencing. Hayes checked her weapon again, her training taking over. What's Phase 3? Elimination of witnesses. Olivia's response was matter of fact, as if she were discussing weather instead of death. He's done gathering intelligence. Now he's cleaning house. The room erupted in controlled chaos. Morrison barked orders into his secure radio. Marcus began checking weapons and ammunition. Patricia frantically contacted headquarters for additional support. Derek worked to counter the cyber intrusion, his fingers flying across multiple keyboards. Through it all, Olivia remained calm, studying the screens with the detached interest of someone reading a tactical manual. Her stillness in the midst of frantic activity made her more noticeable, not less. You're not surprised by any of this, Morrison observed between radio calls. Should I be? Olivia's response was a question that answered itself. He's following textbook psychological warfare. Create chaos, force hasty decisions, exploit the resulting mistakes. Hayes looked up from her tactical display. Textbook? According to who? This isn't standard military doctrine. No, it's Ghost Viper doctrine. Olivia finally showed emotion, a flicker of something that might have been old pain. Chapter 7. Exploitation of Friendly Force Psychology. Derek managed to isolate the cyber attack, his technical skills barely containing the digital assault. This is sophisticated stuff. Military-grade intrusion software, modified for intelligence applications. Whoever's doing this has serious technical resources. Not whoever, him. Olivia watched the data streams flowing across Derek's screens. He always believed information warfare was more effective than bullets. Morrison finished his radio conversation and turned to face her directly. You're talking about Ghost Viper like you know him personally. I do. The simple admission created another shift in the room's dynamics. Patricia stopped consulting her manuals. Marcus's hand moved unconsciously toward his sidearm. Hayes straightened to full military attention. Define personally, Morrison's command voice demanded specificity. Olivia looked around the room, studying faces that had moved from skepticism through curiosity to something approaching fear. Student-teacher relationship. Very intensive, very personal, very effective. Derek's screen suddenly went dark, then slowly came back online with new data. Whatever he did to our systems, he's left us a present, coordinates, timestamp, message. The main screen displayed a location deep in the mountain region, along with a countdown timer showing exactly 5 hours and 37 minutes. Below that, a message. Solo reconnaissance approved, student knows the way. Morrison stared at the screen. He's been listening to our entire conversation. Of course he has. Olivia checked her equipment with practiced efficiency. He probably helped design your communication protocols. 20-year head start, remember? Hayes pulled up topographical data for the coordinates. This is a 12-hour hike through hostile terrain. Even with optimal conditions, there's no way to make it in under 6 hours. Unless you know the shortcuts. Olivia was already putting on tactical gear that seemed to appear from nowhere, which I do. Marcus blocked her path to the exit. I don't care what kind of training you have. Nobody goes alone into that terrain. It's suicide. Olivia looked up at him calmly. Then come with me. The challenge hung in the air between them. Marcus was built for intimidation, his size and strength obvious to everyone in the room. But something in Olivia's quiet confidence made his physical advantages seem less relevant. This is insane, Patricia protested. We need backup. We need air support. We need proper tactical planning. We need our people back alive, Morrison's voice cut through the objections. And right now, she's the only one offering a plan that might work. Derek's computer chimed with another incoming message. This one was audio only, a voice that made Olivia freeze. 48 hours until final lesson, student. Mountain compound coordinates are in your tablet. Come alone or watch your new friends die one by one. Time to see if you learned anything from the old days. The recording ended, leaving the room in absolute silence. Morrison looked from the speakers to Olivia, understanding dawning in his eyes. He's not just hunting your people, he's hunting you. Yes. Why? Olivia finished adjusting her gear, her movements efficient and professional. Because I'm the only one left who knows what really happened during Phoenix Operation, and he needs that silence to stay permanent. During the rescue coordination, Olivia accessed her specialized tactical equipment, featuring military-grade encrypted communication devices with satellite connectivity capabilities. The ruggedized tablet she utilized had been designed for extreme operational environments, providing secure command and control functionality that enabled real-time coordination with multiple assets across hostile territory. Hayes checked the mission timeline. If he's specifically targeting you, this could be a trap within a trap. Probably. Olivia tested her communication equipment, her familiarity with the advanced technology obvious to everyone watching. But our people are still out there, and every minute we spend debating gets them closer to dead. Morrison made the command decision. Limited backup, 2-person team, minimal signature. If this goes wrong, we extract immediately. If this goes wrong, extraction won't be an option. Olivia's response was honest, direct, and chilling. Ghost Viper doesn't leave loose ends. Derek pulled up additional intelligence data. Satellite shows at least 12 hostile signatures in the target area. Could be more using thermal masking. Definitely more. Olivia studied the satellite feeds with expert eyes. He never commits to operation without triple redundancy. Assume 30 hostiles minimum. Marcus checked his weapon load. 30 against 2? Those are terrible odds. Not if 2 of you know what you're doing. Olivia's quiet confidence was more intimidating than Marcus's obvious strength. Ghost Viper trained me to operate alone against overwhelming odds. This is actually generous. Patricia consulted her authorization manual one more time. I need to go on record as opposing this operation. It violates every safety protocol we have. Noted and overruled. Morrison's command authority ended the debate. Gear up. Departure in 20 minutes. The room transformed into organized chaos as equipment was checked, communications tested, and final preparations made. Through it all, Olivia remained focused on her own gear, her movements suggesting familiarity with equipment that went far beyond civilian consulting work. Hayes approached her during the preparation. What aren't you telling us about this Ghost Viper? Olivia looked up from her tactical display. What do you want to know? Why he's so dangerous? Why our people can't handle him using standard procedures? Olivia was quiet for a moment, considering how much truth the situation could handle. Because he's not just a soldier. He's a psychological warfare specialist who understands how people think, how they react under pressure, how to exploit their fears and assumptions. Sounds like standard special operations training. No. Olivia's voice carried weight that made Hayes pay attention. Standard training teaches you to fight enemies. Ghost Viper teaches you to become the enemy's worst nightmare. There's a difference. Derek had managed to restore full functionality to his computer systems, but the intrusion had left traces that told their own story. Whoever did this didn't just break our security, they rebuilt it, better than it was before. Morrison studied the enhanced security protocols now running on their systems. Why would he improve our defenses? Because he wants this to be a fair fight. Olivia tested her communication gear one final time. Ghost Viper never accepted victory through superior resources. He preferred victory through superior thinking. Marcus finished loading his gear, his skepticism still evident. Superior thinking doesn't stop bullets. No, but it makes bullets unnecessary. Olivia stood up, her equipment check complete. Ready? The question was addressed to the room, but everyone understood it was really aimed at Morrison. As the commander, the decision was his. The responsibility was his. The consequences would be his to bear. Morrison looked around the room, studying faces that had moved from skepticism to fear to grim determination. His people were professionals, trained for exactly this kind of operation. But something about the woman standing quietly in the center of the chaos suggested capabilities that went beyond their experience. One question before we commit to this. Morrison's voice carried the weight of command responsibility. Are you qualified to lead this operation? Olivia met his eyes directly. Ask me again in 6 hours. The answer wasn't what he wanted, but it was honest. In their world, honesty was rarer and more valuable than false confidence. Morrison nodded once, a gesture that committed everyone in the room to a course of action that could save lives or cost them everything. Derek, maintain communication monitoring. Patricia, coordinate with headquarters. Hayes, you're with the backup team if we need rapid extraction. Morrison picked up his own gear. Let's bring our people home. The mission began with a 12-minute helicopter flight to the insertion point. The aircraft flying dark through mountain terrain that looked like broken teeth against the evening sky. Olivia sat quietly during the flight, her eyes closed, but her posture suggested meditation rather than sleep. Marcus tried conversation once. What's he like, this ghost viper? Olivia opened her eyes, considering the question. Brilliant, dedicated, completely without mercy when he believes he's right. Sounds like every special operations trainer. No, Olivia closed her eyes again. Every trainer teaches you to win. Ghost Viper taught me to survive. The helicopter touched down in a clearing that didn't appear on any map, the pilot navigating by coordinates that seemed to lead to empty forest. As soon as they disembarked, the aircraft lifted off and disappeared into the darkness, leaving them alone in hostile territory with nothing but their training and equipment. Morrison checked his GPS, confirming their location. 12 kilometers to target, estimated travel time 6 hours through difficult terrain. 4 hours if we use the mountain paths. Olivia was already moving, her night vision equipment activated. Ghost Viper taught me shortcuts through this region. When? Long time ago. The answer was deliberately vague, but her knowledge of the terrain was specific and accurate. She led them through passages that seemed impassable, using handholds and footholds that were invisible until she pointed them out. Marcus struggled to keep up, despite his superior physical conditioning. How do you know this area so well? Training exercises, very intensive, very memorable. Olivia's breathing remained steady despite the difficult climb. Ghost Viper believed familiarity with terrain was more important than superior firepower. They moved through the darkness like ghosts themselves. Olivia's knowledge of the landscape allowing them to avoid detection by thermal sensors and motion detectors. Twice, she stopped their advance to let hostile patrols pass below their position. How did you know they were there? Morrison whispered during the second stop. Discipline patterns. Ghost Viper's people move with specific timing intervals. Once you know the pattern, you can predict their positions. Olivia waited until the patrol was completely out of range before resuming movement. He taught me to read terrain like a book. The approach to the target compound took them through a landscape that seemed designed for defense. Natural choke points, elevated positions, clear fields of fire, everything an experienced operator would want for a defensive position. Morrison studied the compound through his scope. This place is a fortress. How do we get inside without triggering every alarm they have? We don't get inside. Olivia adjusted her own optical equipment. We make them come to us. That's the opposite of every rescue doctrine I know. Ghost Viper wrote different doctrine. Olivia began setting up what looked like a communication station. Rule 7. When the enemy holds ground advantage, create psychological advantage. Marcus watched her work with growing respect. What kind of psychological advantage? Olivia activated her communication system, broadcasting on a frequency that would be monitored by anyone with military-grade equipment. Hello, teacher. Student has arrived for final exam. The response came immediately, broadcast from multiple locations around the compound. Punctual as always. Are you ready to graduate? Morrison realized they were listening to a conversation between two people who understood warfare at a level that went beyond anything in his experience. The casual tone couldn't hide the deadly serious nature of what was happening. That depends, Olivia replied. Are you ready to face what you created? I created perfection. The question is whether you've maintained the standards I taught you. The radio exchange revealed layers of meaning that Morrison and Marcus could only guess at. Student and teacher, but also something more personal. Professional respect mixed with personal betrayal. A relationship that had shaped both participants and now threatened to destroy one of them. Olivia looked at Morrison, her expression serious. He's going to offer an exchange. Me for your people. Don't accept it. Why not? If that's what it takes to get them back. Because he's not planning to honor any agreement. He can't afford to let anyone walk away from this alive. Olivia's voice carried the weight of certainty, including me. The radio crackled again. Bring your friends to the main gate. We'll discuss terms. Morrison reached for his radio, but Olivia stopped him. He already knows exactly where we are, has known since we landed. This isn't negotiation, it's theater. Then what's the plan? Olivia was already moving, her gear packed with the efficiency of someone who had done this countless times before. We make him play defense instead of offense. How? By giving him exactly what he doesn't expect. Olivia's smile was cold, professional, and entirely without humor. A fair fight. Marcus checked his weapon one more time. Against how many hostiles? All of them. The answer should have been terrifying, but something in Olivia's calm confidence made it sound like acceptable odds. Morrison found himself believing that this woman, who had walked into their safe house as a simple consultant, might actually be capable of facing down an entire hostile force. As they prepared for what would undoubtedly be the most dangerous operation any of them had ever attempted, Morrison realized that everything they thought they knew about warfare, about tactics, about survival, was about to be tested by someone who had learned from the best teacher alive. The mountain compound ahead of them held 3 missing operatives, an unknown number of hostile forces, and a legendary operator who had supposedly died 5 years ago. Between them and that fortress stood only their training, their equipment, and a woman whose true identity was still a mystery. Morrison looked at Olivia one more time. Any final advice before we commit to this? She checked her equipment one last time, her movements precise and professional. Remember everything I've taught you in the last 6 hours. Forget everything you thought you knew before that. And if things go wrong? Olivia's response was quiet, certain, and absolutely terrifying. Then we find out whether the student really learned everything the teacher had to offer. As they moved toward the compound, Morrison realized that the next few hours would determine not just whether they rescued their missing people, but whether any of them survived to tell the story of what really happened when legends collided in the mountains of Eastern Europe. The approach to the compound revealed sophisticated defensive positions that had been constructed with military precision. Guard towers, overlapping fields of fire, cleared kill zones. Everything suggested professional military planning executed by people who understood modern warfare. This isn't partisan activity, Morrison observed. This is professional military construction. Ghost Viper never worked with amateurs. Olivia studied the defensive layout through her scope. Everyone he recruited was elite level and completely loyal. Marcus counted guard positions visible from their location. Minimum 20 hostiles, probably more inside the compound. Definitely more. Olivia's assessment was matter of fact. Ghost Viper operates with overwhelming local superiority. He'll have at least 40 people here. Morrison did the mathematics in his head. 3 rescuers against 40 hostiles in a prepared defensive position. The odds were insane. We need to call for backup. Backup won't arrive in time to help our people. Olivia was already moving into position for her part of the plan, and Ghost Viper will disappear the moment he detects external support. Then how do we do this? Olivia's radio crackled with an incoming transmission. Student, time for your final examination. Bring your friends to the front gate. Let's discuss graduation requirements. She keyed her radio to respond. Teacher, I'm ready for my test, but my friends stay here. That wasn't part of our agreement. We don't have an agreement. We have a debt to settle. The radio went silent for several minutes. When Ghost Viper's voice returned, it carried a different tone, less theatrical, more personal. 25 years of training, and you still think you can negotiate from a position of weakness. I learned from the best teacher alive. That puts me in a position of strength. Another pause. Then, main compound. 1 hour. Come alone, or watch your people die slowly. Olivia turned off her radio and looked at Morrison. That's our opening. He's expecting me to come alone. Instead, we're going to give him something he's never faced before, which is A student who learned to think like the teacher, but chose to remain human. Morrison wasn't sure what that meant, but the confidence in her voice suggested she had a plan that went beyond anything he could understand. As they prepared for what would certainly be the most dangerous hour of their lives, he found himself trusting the judgment of a woman whose real name he still didn't know. The final approach to the compound would determine whether they could pull off the impossible, rescuing 3 hostages from a fortress defended by a legend, using tactics that existed only in the mind of his former student. Morrison checked his equipment one last time and prepared to follow Olivia Mitchell into the darkness, hoping that whoever she really was, she was good enough to get them all home alive. The compound's floodlights suddenly blazed to life, turning night into harsh artificial day. Olivia dropped to one knee behind cover, her movements fluid and automatic. Morrison and Marcus followed her lead, their military training responding to the obvious threat. "Motion sensors," Morrison whispered. "They know we're here." "They've known since we landed the helicopter." Olivia studied the defensive positions through her scope. Ghost Viper doesn't rely on sensors. He reads terrain, weather patterns, human psychology. We've been expected for hours. The radio crackled again. "Impressive approach, student. You remember the mountain paths well, but you've brought friends to a private conversation." Olivia keyed her radio. "My friends, stay put. This is between us. Nothing is between just us anymore. Phoenix Operation made sure of that." The voice carried decades of accumulated bitterness. "Too many people know too many secrets. Time for final cleanup." Marcus checked his ammunition count. What's he talking about? What really happened during Phoenix Operation? Olivia was quiet for several seconds, her eyes fixed on the compound ahead. Ghost Viper was supposed to die. The mission was designed to eliminate him, along with everyone else who knew about classified programs that went too far. Supposed to die? Morrison's voice carried the weight of someone beginning to understand the scope of what they were facing. "You mean Phoenix Operation was an assassination mission?" "Phoenix Operation was a cover-up disguised as a mission." Olivia's voice remained steady, but something in her tone suggested old wounds. Ghost Viper had evidence of war crimes, illegal programs, operations that violated international law. People with stars on their shoulders needed that evidence to disappear. The pieces were falling into place for Morrison. So, they sent his entire unit on a suicide mission. Including me. Olivia checked her equipment one more time. "I was supposed to die with everyone else. The only difference is that I survived, and Ghost Viper knows I have copies of everything he had." Marcus understood the implications immediately, which means both of you are threats to people in very high places. We're threats. Olivia was already moving, using terrain features to mask her approach to the compound. Now we're just unfinished business. They moved through the defensive perimeter with precision that spoke to advanced training on all sides. Olivia led them through gaps in the sensor network that shouldn't have existed, using knowledge that went beyond anything in standard tactical manuals. "How do you know they are blind spots?" Morrison whispered as they paused behind a concrete barrier. "Because I helped design this type of defensive system 20 years ago for a different operation." Olivia studied guard rotation patterns through her scope. "Ghost Viper uses everything I taught him, but he forgets that teaching works both ways." The first guard tower came into view, occupied by 2 hostiles with professional-grade equipment. Their positions offered overlapping fields of fire across the main approach routes, exactly as military doctrine suggested. "Standard sniper elimination," Marcus suggested. Nothing standard about this. Olivia was studying something beyond the visible guards. "Count the tower positions." Morrison used his scope to survey the defensive layout. 8 towers, overlapping coverage. "Look closer, count again." Morrison studied the positions more carefully, noting details that hadn't been obvious during initial reconnaissance. 9 towers, one's camouflaged. Ghost Viper always builds triple redundancy into defensive positions. What you can see is designed to be seen. What you can't see is designed to kill you. Olivia pointed to positions that were invisible until she identified them. 12 towers total, 43 defensive positions, approximately 60 hostile personnel. Marcus did the mathematics. 60 against 3, those odds are insane. Which is why we're not going to fight 60 people. Olivia was already implementing whatever plan she'd developed. "We're going to fight 1. The radio squawked again. "Student, time's running out. Your people have 20 minutes of life left unless you present yourself for graduation." Olivia responded immediately. "I'm coming, teacher, but this graduation is going to be different than you planned." "How so?" "Because I learned everything you taught me. And then I learned some things you didn't." The radio went silent. Morrison realized he was listening to a conversation between two people who understood warfare at a level that went beyond his experience. The professional respect was obvious, but so was the deadly serious nature of their conflict. "What did you learn that he didn't teach?" Morrison asked. "That winning isn't the same as surviving, and surviving isn't the same as being human." Olivia checked her communication equipment one final time. "Ghost Viper taught me to be perfect. I had to learn to be better than perfect." Marcus looked confused. "How do you get better than perfect?" "By choosing what you're perfect at." Olivia was moving again, her approach to the compound methodical and precisely calculated. "Ghost Viper is perfect at eliminating threats. I'm perfect at protecting people." They reached the outer perimeter of the compound's defenses. Up close, the sophistication of the defensive positions was even more obvious. This wasn't partisan activity or improvised fortification. This was military engineering executed by professionals. Motion sensors, thermal imaging, overlapping fields of fire. Morrison cataloged the defensive systems. "How do we get through this?" "We don't get through it, we go over it." Olivia pointed to a cliff face that rose above the compound. Ghost Viper always forgets about vertical approaches. Marcus studied the cliff through his scope. "That's a 60-foot vertical climb. No ropes, no protection, no margin for error. Which is why he won't expect it." Olivia was already beginning the climb, her movements confident despite the obvious danger. "Ghost Viper trained me for impossible approaches. This is just difficult." The climb took 40 minutes of precise movement across rock faces that offered minimal handholds. Olivia led the way, her knowledge of the terrain allowing her to find paths that were invisible from ground level. Morrison and Marcus followed, their respect for her capabilities growing with every impossible move she made. From the top of the cliff, they could see into the compound. 3 buildings arranged around a central courtyard, with defensive positions integrated into the architecture, professional military construction throughout. "Where are our people?" Morrison whispered. Olivia pointed to the central building. "Underground level. Ghost Viper always keeps high-value assets below ground where they can't be extracted without going through him." Marcus studied the building layout. "How do we get down there without triggering every alarm they have?" "We don't avoid the alarms. We use them." Olivia was setting up communication equipment again. "Ghost Viper expects me to try stealth. Instead, we're going to announce our arrival." She activated her radio on a frequency that would be monitored throughout the compound. "Ghost Viper. Student requesting permission to enter for final examination." The response came immediately. "Permission granted. Main entrance. Come alone." "Negative. I'm bringing witnesses to graduation." "That violates the terms of our agreement." "We don't have an agreement. We have a reckoning." Olivia's voice carried absolute certainty. 25 years in the making. Morrison realized that this wasn't just a rescue mission anymore. This was personal conflict between two people who had shaped each other's understanding of warfare, and now found themselves on opposite sides of a battle that only one of them could survive. "What's the real plan?" Morrison asked quietly. "The real plan is that Ghost Viper thinks he's hunting me. Actually, I'm hunting him." Olivia checked her equipment one final time. Everything else is misdirection. They descended into the compound using rope techniques that put them inside the defensive perimeter without triggering motion sensors. Professional-level infiltration that spoke to training beyond anything Morrison had experienced. The central courtyard was empty, but lights and windows suggested occupied buildings, too quiet for a facility that supposedly held 60 hostile personnel. "Where is everyone?" Marcus whispered. "Waiting." Olivia moved across the courtyard with purposeful strides, making no attempt at concealment. Ghost Viper is theatrical. He wants this to look like a formal confrontation. The main building's door opened as they approached. A figure silhouetted against interior lighting gestured for them to enter. Morrison couldn't make out details, but something about the person's posture suggested military bearing and absolute confidence. Student, punctual as always. The voice belonged to Ghost Viper, but seeing him in person added dimensions that radio communication couldn't convey. Tall, lean, with gray hair and eyes that seemed to catalog everything in his field of vision. Professional military bearing despite civilian clothes. "Teacher," Olivia's response was respectful but not deferential. "You look well for a dead man." "Death is a state of mind. I chose life instead." Ghost Viper gestured toward the interior of the building. "Shall we discuss your final examination?" Morrison and Marcus flanked Olivia as they entered the building. The interior was professionally furnished, but utilitarian. Maps, communication equipment, tactical displays, everything suggested an active military command center. Your friends can wait here. Ghost Viper indicated chairs positioned against one wall. Our conversation is private. Our conversation is finished. Olivia remained standing in the center of the room. I'm here for my people. Release them, and we'll leave. Ghost Viper smiled, the expression carrying no warmth. Your people are perfectly safe. They're part of your final examination. What kind of examination? The kind that determines whether you learned everything I taught you. Ghost Viper activated a wall display showing surveillance footage from below the building. 3 figures in military uniforms, alive, but clearly prisoners. They've been asking about you, wondering why their rescue team hasn't arrived. Morrison recognized the prisoners immediately, the 3 missing operatives. Alive, apparently unharmed, but definitely under hostile control. Release them. Morrison's command voice carried authority that had been effective in countless situations. Ghost Viper looked at him with mild interest. Commander Morrison, impressive service record. Unfortunately, you're not qualified to give orders here. I'm qualified to protect American personnel. American personnel. Ghost Viper's voice carried amusement. Do you know what your government was willing to do to protect American personnel during Phoenix Operation? Morrison looked at Olivia, beginning to understand that the situation was more complex than a simple rescue mission. Tell him, student. Tell him what his government considers acceptable casualties. Olivia remained silent, her attention focused on the surveillance display showing their captured people. Phoenix Operation was designed to eliminate 12 American operatives who had evidence of war crimes committed by senior military officials. Ghost Viper activated additional displays showing classified documents, including your student here. Morrison studied the documents, his understanding of the situation shifting with each page. These show systematic elimination of witnesses to illegal operations. Exactly. And your student survived elimination that was specifically designed to ensure no witnesses remained alive. Ghost Viper looked at Olivia with something that might have been pride, which makes her the most dangerous person in this room. Marcus checked his weapon, his soldier's instincts responding to increasing tension. Dangerous to who? To everyone who wants Phoenix Operation to stay buried. Ghost Viper pulled up additional files, including the people who sent you here. Morrison felt the ground shifting beneath everything he thought he understood. Are you saying this rescue mission is actually another elimination attempt? I'm saying that some secrets are worth more than individual lives. Ghost Viper looked directly at Olivia. The question is whether my student has learned that lesson. Olivia finally spoke. I learned a different lesson. I learned that some secrets aren't worth keeping. The confrontation that had been building throughout their approach was finally reaching its resolution. Teacher and student, separated by years of different choices, now faced each other across a philosophical divide that had life or death consequences. Then we have a problem. Ghost Viper's voice carried the weight of absolute certainty, because those secrets are going to stay buried, along with everyone who knows them. Morrison realized that the next few minutes would determine not just whether they rescued their people, but whether any of them survived to report what they'd learned. What do you want? Morrison asked. I want my student to make a choice. Ghost Viper activated controls that brought additional surveillance displays online. She can join me in creating a new organization dedicated to protecting secrets that need protection, or she can die with the rest of you. Olivia studied the displays, her expression unreadable. What kind of organization? The kind that prevents future Phoenix operations. The kind that ensures classified programs stay classified. The kind that protects national security by eliminating threats before they become problems. You mean assassination? I mean surgical removal of cancer before it spreads. Ghost Viper's voice carried the conviction of someone who had rationalized terrible choices. Phoenix Operation happened because too many people knew too much. We can prevent future Phoenix operations by ensuring fewer people know anything. Morrison understood the proposal, a shadow organization dedicated to murdering anyone who might expose government secrets. That's not protection, that's paranoia with a body count. That's survival. Ghost Viper looked at Olivia. Your student understands. Don't you, student? Olivia was quiet for several seconds, studying the surveillance feeds, showing their captured people. I understand that you're afraid. Afraid? Afraid that Phoenix Operation was wrong. Afraid that you've spent 5 years justifying murder. Afraid that the student you trained so well might have learned to think for herself. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Ghost Viper's expression shifted from confident to dangerous. "Careful, student. Your final examination isn't complete." "Yes, it is." Olivia moved toward the surveillance controls. "I graduated the day I chose to save people, instead of eliminating them." Ghost Viper blocked her path. "You're making a mistake. I'm making a choice. The same choice you should have made 25 years ago." Morrison realized he was witnessing the end of a relationship that had shaped two of the most dangerous people he'd ever encountered. The personal stakes were as high as the professional ones. "Last chance, student," Ghost Viper's voice carried finality. "Join me, or join your friends in failure. I choose a third option." Olivia's response was calm, certain, and absolutely terrifying. "I choose to stop you." The confrontation exploded into violence with the speed of professional operators who had trained together for years. Ghost Viper moved first, his attack precise and potentially lethal. Olivia responded with techniques that matched his exactly, her movements flowing like water around his aggression. Morrison and Marcus tried to assist, but quickly realized they were watching a fight between people whose capabilities went beyond their experience. Every move was countered, every attack neutralized, every advantage immediately canceled by superior skill. "She's fighting her own teacher," Marcus whispered. "How is she matching him?" "Because she learned everything he taught her, and then she learned to be better." Morrison watched the conflict with professional appreciation for skills he couldn't match. The fight moved through the room like a deadly dance, both participants demonstrating capabilities that seemed impossible. Furniture shattered, equipment sparked, walls cracked under impacts that would have incapacitated normal people. But gradually, a pattern emerged. Ghost Viper was fighting to win. Olivia was fighting to survive. The difference was subtle but decisive. "You can't win, student," Ghost Viper's voice carried strain despite his confident words. "I taught you everything you know." "You taught me everything you know." Olivia's response came between movements that kept her alive against overwhelming skill. "But you didn't teach me everything I learned." The distinction was important. Ghost Viper had trained her in techniques, but experience had taught her wisdom. Training provided capability, but judgment determined how capability was used. Share this now, before the big moment. If you've ever been underestimated because of how you look, leave a like. This story is proof of quiet strength. The fight continued with intensity that spoke to years of accumulated conflict between teacher and student. Every technique Ghost Viper used, Olivia countered with variations he had never seen. Every trap he set, she avoided with insight that went beyond his teaching. "Where did you learn these modifications?" Ghost Viper demanded between attacks. "From the people you taught me to eliminate." Olivia's response revealed the source of her evolved capabilities. "Every mission taught me something new. Every person I saved showed me better ways to use what you taught me." Morrison understood the implication. Ghost Viper had trained her to be a perfect killer, but experience had taught her to be something more complex and ultimately more dangerous. The fight reached its climax when Ghost Viper attempted a technique that should have ended the confrontation. A move Olivia had seen him use countless times during training, executed with precision that spoke to decades of practice. But instead of the expected counter, Olivia did something that surprised everyone in the room, including herself. She stopped fighting. "I won't kill you." Her voice carried absolute certainty despite the obvious danger. "You taught me better than that." Ghost Viper paused, his attack incomplete. "I taught you to survive. You taught me to choose survival over everything else, but you never taught me what survival was worth." The moment stretched between them like a bridge across decades of shared experience. Teacher and student, mentor and protege, two people who had shaped each other's understanding of what it meant to be human in a world that often demanded inhuman choices. "You're making a mistake," Ghost Viper said quietly. "I'm making the right choice." Olivia gestured toward the surveillance displays, showing their captured people. "Let them go. End this. Choose something better than fear." For a moment, Morrison thought she had reached him. Ghost Viper's expression suggested internal conflict between the person he had been and the person he had become. Then his expression hardened. "Some choices can't be unmade." Ghost Viper reached for controls that would trigger systems throughout the compound. Emergency destruction protocols that would eliminate evidence, prisoners, and everyone present. A final solution that protected secrets by ensuring no witnesses survived. Morrison moved to stop him, but Ghost Viper was faster, his hand already activating controls that began countdown sequences throughout the facility. 30 minutes, Ghost Viper announced. Enough time to reach minimum safe distance. If you leave now. What about our people? Morrison demanded. Acceptable casualties, same as Phoenix operation. Olivia studied the destruction countdown with professional interest. Thermal charges, multiple redundancy, designed to eliminate everything within a 2-mile radius. Exactly. Perfect elimination. No evidence, no witnesses, no problems. Ghost Viper moved toward an exit that apparently led to his own escape route. Last chance, student. Come with me or stay and die with your friends. Olivia looked at the countdown timer, then at Morrison and Marcus. How long to extract our people? Morrison calculated distances and movement time through hostile terrain. 20 minutes minimum, without opposition. There will be opposition. Ghost Viper paused at the exit. I've spent 5 years preparing for this moment. Every defensive position, every escape route, every contingency has been planned. Including the possibility that your student might surprise you. Ghost Viper smiled, the expression cold and professional. You've already surprised me. You chose sentiment over survival. That's a weakness I never taught you. It's a strength you never learned. The philosophical divide between them was complete. Ghost Viper saw human connection as weakness that compromised operational effectiveness. Olivia had learned that human connection was strength that enhanced everything else. Ghost Viper left through his escape route, the exit sealing behind him with finality that suggested no pursuit would be possible. The countdown continued, marking time until destruction that would eliminate everyone present. Can we disable the charges? Marcus asked. Olivia studied the control systems with expert eyes. Ghost Viper built triple redundancy into everything. Disabling the primary system would trigger secondary backup. Disabling secondary would trigger tertiary. All 3 systems would have to be disabled simultaneously. Can you do it? Maybe, but not in 30 minutes. Olivia was already moving toward the stairs that led to the underground level. Different plan. We get our people, and we run. Morrison followed her toward the lower level. Run where? You said the destruction radius is 2 miles. I said the thermal charges have a 2-mile radius. I didn't say we couldn't survive them. Marcus brought up the rear, his respect for Olivia's capabilities now absolute. How do we survive thermal charges designed to eliminate everything? By being somewhere the charges can't reach. Olivia led them down stairs that seemed to descend forever. Ghost Viper always builds escape routes, usually more than one. The underground level was larger than the building above, with corridors that extended beyond the reach of their flashlights. Professional construction throughout, suggesting this facility had been built for long-term occupation. This place is huge, Morrison observed. Ghost Viper never builds small. Redundancy, contingency, multiple options for every situation. Olivia moved through the corridors with confidence that suggested familiarity, including escape routes he doesn't tell anyone about. They found the prisoners in a secured area that was professionally constructed but not designed for permanent detention. The 3 missing operatives were alive, alert, and ready for extraction. About time, Agent Torres said as Morrison unlocked his restraints. We've been listening to explosions upstairs. What's the situation? Thermal charges on timer, 26 minutes until destruction. We need to move. Morrison helped the other prisoners to their feet. Agent Kim checked his equipment, most of which had been confiscated. How do we get out of here? Follow me. Olivia led them deeper into the underground complex, away from the obvious exit routes. Ghost Viper taught me that the best escape route is the one nobody else knows about. They moved through corridors that seemed to extend indefinitely, Olivia's knowledge of the layout allowing them to navigate what would otherwise be a maze. Behind them, muffled explosions suggested that destruction sequences had begun early. He's not waiting for the timer, Morrison realized. Ghost Viper never trusts automated systems when manual systems are available. Olivia increased their pace. We have maybe 10 minutes before thermal charges detonate. The corridor they were following began to slope upward, suggesting they were approaching another exit. But instead of leading to the surface, it opened into a natural cave system that extended deep into the mountain. Cave network, Agent Torres observed. How far does it go? Far enough. Olivia led them into passages that showed signs of recent use. Emergency supplies, communication equipment, defensive positions. Ghost Viper built this as a fallback position if the main compound was compromised. Marcus studied the cave layout. If he built this as a fallback, won't he be here? Eventually, but not yet. He'll want to confirm destruction of the main compound before activating fallback protocols. Olivia continued deeper into the cave system. which gives us maybe an hour before he arrives. They move through caves that seem to go on forever, the underground passages providing protection from the thermal charges that were about to sterilize everything above ground. Behind them, the mountain shook as explosions eliminated the compound and everything in it. Thermal charges, Morrison confirmed. Right on schedule. Agent Kim looked back toward the destroyed facility. What about evidence? Proof of what we discovered? Gone. Olivia continued leading them through the cave system, which was the point. Ghost Viper eliminates problems by eliminating evidence. They reached a natural chamber that opened to the outside world through a concealed entrance. Dawn was breaking over mountains that looked peaceful, despite the violence that had just occurred below ground. The fight with Ghost Viper had taken its toll. During their escape through the cave system, Olivia's sweater had been torn by jagged rock formations, the fabric hanging loose around her left shoulder. As they reached the natural chamber, Agent Kim noticed something through the torn fabric, stark black ink against pale skin. A coiled viper wrapped around a skull, rendered in intricate detail. "That's the Ghost Viper unit tattoo," Torres whispered, his military background recognizing the legendary insignia. Morrison's understanding shifted instantly. "You're Viper 1, his only marked student." "Yes." Olivia didn't attempt to hide the exposed marking. "The unit was declared KIA. I survived." Marcus studied the tattoo with professional recognition. Proof of completed training under Ghost Viper himself. "No wonder you knew his tactics." Morrison checked his communication equipment. "Signal's clear. I can call for extraction." "Do it." Olivia studied the landscape outside the cave entrance. "But understand that this isn't over. Ghost Viper is still out there, and he knows we survived." Agent Torres joined her at the cave entrance. "What happens next?" "Next, we report what we found. We document everything we learned. We make sure Phoenix operation doesn't happen again." Olivia's voice carried determination that suggested personal investment beyond professional duty. "And Ghost Viper?" Ghost Viper made his choice. He chose fear over hope, elimination over protection, death over life. Olivia looked out at the mountains where her former teacher was probably implementing his own escape plan. "I chose differently." Morrison completed his communication with extraction teams. "Helicopter ETA 30 minutes. Medical support standing by." Marcus sat down heavily, exhaustion from the night's events finally catching up with him. "I still don't understand who you really are." Olivia was quiet for several moments, considering how much truth the situation required. "I'm someone who was trained to be perfect at eliminating threats. I learned to be better at protecting people. But who are you really?" Olivia looked at him directly. "Call sign, Viper 1, Phoenix Operation Survivor, Ghost Viper's only student, and someone who chose to remain human despite training that was designed to eliminate humanity." The revelation settled over the group, like dawn light filling the cave chamber. Morrison finally understood the scope of what they had witnessed. A confrontation between two of the most dangerous people alive, resolved not through superior violence, but through superior wisdom. Agent Kim pulled out a damaged tablet that had somehow survived their captivity. "Some of the files we intercepted are still intact. Evidence of illegal operations, war crimes, systematic elimination of witnesses. Evidence that powerful people will want to disappear." Olivia took the tablet, studying files that contained enough information to destroy careers and possibly governments, along with everyone who has seen it. Morrison realized their mission was far from over. Phoenix operation all over again. "Not if we do this right." Olivia activated communication protocols on the tablet. "Ghost Viper taught me that information is power, but he never taught me that power should be used to protect people instead of controlling them." She began transmitting files to multiple recipients, news organizations, congressional oversight committees, international human rights organizations, wide distribution that would make elimination impossible. "Insurance policy," she explained. "Too many people knowing too much for anyone to risk Phoenix operation tactics." Agent Torres watched the transmission progress. "What about Ghost Viper? He's still out there." "Ghost Viper is a symptom, not the disease." Olivia finished the transmission and handed the tablet back to Kim. "The disease is the belief that some secrets are worth any price. Cure the disease and symptoms like Ghost Viper become irrelevant." The sound of approaching helicopters echoed through the mountain valleys. Their extraction had arrived, bringing with it return to a world that would soon learn about operations that were supposed to remain buried forever. Morrison prepared his team for extraction, but found himself studying Olivia with new understanding. What happens to you now? I go back to being a security consultant. Olivia checked her equipment one final time. Someone who helps organizations protect what's worth protecting. And if Ghost Viper comes after you, then he'll discover that the student really did learn everything the teacher had to offer. Olivia's smile was confident but not threatening. Plus, a few things he never thought to teach. As they prepared to board the extraction helicopters, Morrison realized he was leaving the mountains with more questions than answers. But he was also leaving with the understanding that some people chose to use their capabilities to protect others, while others chose to use identical capabilities to control and eliminate. The difference wasn't in the training, it was in the choice of what to do with that training. As the helicopters lifted off, carrying them away from the mountain compound where legends had collided, Morrison looked back at the peaceful landscape that hid so much violence. The rescue mission was complete, but the larger story was just beginning. Olivia's tablet chimed with an incoming message. She read it quietly, her expression shifting to something that might have been concern. "What is it?" Morrison asked. She showed him the screen. Ghost Viper protocol activated, Phase 4 commencing, all assets converging on target locations. The war wasn't over, it was expanding. Agent Torres pointed to movement in the valley below. Through the helicopter's window, they could see vehicles approaching the destroyed compound, not rescue vehicles. Military trucks with no identifying markings. "Cleanup crew," Olivia observed. "Someone's already trying to bury this deeper." Morrison felt the weight of understanding settle on him. This wasn't just about rescuing 3 operatives or stopping one rogue agent. This was about a system that was willing to murder anyone who threatened its secrets. "How many more are out there?" he asked. "How many more operations like Phoenix?" Olivia's response was quiet, certain, and terrifying. "Too many. But now we know where to look." Morrison's radio crackled with an encrypted transmission from headquarters. He listened carefully, then looked at Olivia with grim satisfaction. Ghost Viper just made a critical error. When he transmitted the Phase 4 activation, our signals intelligence tracked his location. Every intelligence agency in NATO now has his exact coordinates. Agent Torres checked his recovered equipment, pulling up international law enforcement databases. Interpol just issued a red notice. International manhunt with shoot-on-sight authorization. His escape route just became a death trap. More than that, Olivia added, studying the tactical display. By activating Phase 4, he revealed the entire network. Every safe house, every asset, every operational protocol. He chose to expose everything rather than accept defeat. Marcus monitored incoming intelligence reports. 12 countries just launched simultaneous raids on Ghost Viper facilities. His entire organization is collapsing in real time. Morrison realized the scope of Ghost Viper's miscalculation. He tried to eliminate us and ended up eliminating himself. The teacher's final lesson: pride destroys what skill cannot preserve. Agent Kim looked up from his intelligence analysis. Facial recognition just flagged him at 3 different airports. All exits blocked. He's trapped in a surveillance net that's tightening every minute. 25 years of building the perfect shadow organization, Olivia observed, destroyed by one moment of emotional decision-making. Everything he taught me about staying calm under pressure, he forgot when it mattered most. The helicopter banked toward the extraction point, carrying them towards safety that might be temporary. Ghost Viper was still out there, along with the system that had created him. The files they had transmitted would cause investigations, but investigations could be controlled, redirected, buried under bureaucracy and classification stamps. The real question wasn't whether they had won, but whether victory was even possible against enemies who wrote the rules. As the mountains disappeared behind them, Olivia spoke one final time, her words barely audible over the helicopter's engines, but carrying weight that would stay with Morrison forever. The most dangerous enemy isn't the one who wants to kill you. It's the one who wants to make you just like them. Ghost Viper's greatest failure wasn't tactical. It was believing that survival required abandoning humanity. The student's greatest success isn't surviving. It's remaining human despite everything that tried to change that. Morrison looked at the woman who had walked into their safe house as a simple consultant and emerged as something far more complex and dangerous. In the end, the most important lesson wasn't about warfare, tactics, or survival. It was about choice. The choice to use power to protect rather than control, to remain human rather than become a perfect machine, to preserve hope rather than surrender to fear. The helicopter flew toward an uncertain future, carrying people who had learned that some battles are fought not with weapons, but with the decision to remain human in a world that often rewarded those who chose otherwise.
The stories end here, but the journey continues. Many new episodes are waiting for you. And if you enjoy, please take a moment to like, subscribe to our EV Story channel, and turn on the bell. See you in the next story.